Today, we are diving into a question that has honestly puzzled people for centuries. It's a paradox, hiding right in plain sight that gets to the very heart of understanding God's will. So here's the puzzle. On one hand, the Bible says God's will is totally sovereign, that nothing can stand in its way. But then you look around and, well, we see people resisting God's commands literally every single day. So what's the deal? Is God's will this unstoppable force, or is it something we can just choose to ignore? The answer, you might be surprised to hear, is both. And the key to unlocking this whole thing isn't some super complex philosophical argument. Nope. It's actually all about language, a really crucial distinction in the original Greek that kind of gets lost when we translate it into English. That's right. Where we just see the single word will, the original writers of the New Testament actually used two different words for two very different ideas, boulema and thelema. And trust me, understanding these two words is the key that unlocks this entire mystery.
All right, let's start with the first one. This is the big one. It represents God's absolute sovereign will. This is boulema.
The best way to think about boulema is as God's ultimate blueprint for all of history. It's his fixed, unchangeable plan. And this isn't just a wish or a hope. This is the guaranteed final outcome. It's the grand story that will happen no matter what. You know, when the Apostle Paul asks this really powerful rhetorical question in the book of Romans, the Greek word he's using there for will is boulema, and the implied answer is just hanging in the air. No one can resist this kind of will. It's completely unstoppable. So boulema is God's behind-the-scenes plan. It's so big, so all-encompassing that it even weaves human rebellion right into its design. Every single action, whether it's meant to help or hinder, ultimately ends up serving this predetermined final result. Okay, so if boulema is the unstoppable master plan, what about the will that people clearly resist all the time? Well, for that we need our second Greek word, thelema. Dilemma is a totally different thing. This is about God's revealed will, his commands, his desires, his moral instructions for all of us. It's what God wishes we would do, what pleases him, like the command to love your neighbor or not to steal. When Jesus talks about wanting to gather the children of Jerusalem like a hen gathers her chicks, but they were unwilling, he's describing dilemma. It's a genuine desire from God that, right in that moment, was being resisted by human choice. And this is where our choices really come into play. Every single time someone sins, they are actively pushing back against God's dilemma, his revealed wish for how we should live our lives. This is the will that can be and absolutely is disobeyed every single day. So to make this crystal clear, let's use an analogy. Think of it like this. With boulema, God is acting as the grand architect, designing the unchangeable, unshakable blueprint for the entire project of history. But with thelema, God is acting as the moral governor, giving laws and instructions to all of us living inside that project, laws we are free to either obey or disobey. So we have these two really distinct ideas, the unchangeable plan and the resistible desire. But here's where it gets fascinating. These two wills don't contradict each other. In fact, they work together to achieve one single unified purpose. Check out this perfect example from the Old Testament. In the book of 1 Samuel, the people of Israel resist God's thelema, his desire for him to be their only king. Instead, they demand a human king. So that's step one. They disobey his revealed will. But then, and this is amazing, in step two, God uses their act of rebellion to fulfill his boulema, his sovereign plan to establish the royal line of King David, which, as we know, would eventually lead to Jesus. And that is the incredible takeaway here. Their resistance to God's thelema became the very vehicle he used to accomplish his boulema. It just goes to show that nothing, not even our own sin, can derail God's ultimate plan. It's all factored in. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap here. On one side, you have boulema. That's God's sovereign hidden purpose. Can you resist it? Nope. The outcome is absolutely certain. Then on the other side, you have thelema. That's God's revealed commands and desires. Can you resist that? Oh yeah, we humans do it every day. This whole understanding brings us to one of the most powerful metaphors in the entire Bible for God's sovereignty, one that Paul uses to tackle this very issue head-on. When people started to question this, asking how God could possibly hold them accountable if their actions were already part of his bigger plan, Paul's response was this incredible analogy of the potter and the clay.
His point is that, really, it's not our place to cross-examine the Creator on how he decides to run his universe. It's a huge statement about perspective and, well, sovereignty.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If both our obedience to God's desires and even our rebellion against them can be woven into his unchangeable sovereign plan, what does that say about the real significance of our choices? And what does it mean for the ultimate nature of our purpose inside that grand design?